Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Clayton.
And my name is James.
James, fresh back from the King Power last
I,
night.
I don't know about
I,
fresh.
wow, what time did you get in? That's probably
It's
the
just before 2 o'clock.
Jesus.
Um, and I was feeling a bit ropey this morning. I dropped Harry off at his summer school this morning, and I went in Aldi. This is so irrelevant, but I just want to tell it anyway. I had minutes waiting for a bus, and I jumped in Aldi, so I see if they got any bakery or something like that. And they had a toffee filled yum yum
Oh,
that hit like something
I love
special, and
toffee and I love a yum yum, so that sounds like my dream.
so I'm ready to podcast now about that.
Lovely
Uh,
stuff.
P- People's poll today. We will cover Leicester Tottenham quite a bit tomorrow on the Clayton and James show, and we'll also cover that from the FPL perspective as well. People's Poll podcast today, though. So there were three choices in the vote yesterday. One was new football laws. There are adjustments. I think one of the early takeaways from the weekend, quite clear, this higher bar, particularly over potential penalty decisions. Another option was to vote on each player's key player, i.e., one player they could really ill afford to lose to injury during the course of the season. For example, I've said to you, Clates, that I think Martin Odegaard is obviously extremely difficult to replace should he pick up an injury for you, that kind of thing. But what you voted for was a position to strengthen for each club. And I think it's obviously relevant with the transfer window closing. It's next Friday, by the way. It does close before game week 3. It's 11 p.m. deadline next Friday. I've gone a little bit earlier this year because obviously that September the 1st is like on a Sunday, isn't it? 31st Saturday. So they brought it forward to the Friday before the weekend games. So there's obviously business going to be done over the next 10 days or so. So part of this is arguably looking at where do we think they'll need to strengthen, and obviously gives an indication of what they might do as well. Because if we're thinking it, there's every chance the clubs might be thinking it as well. And there is obviously a little bit of an FPL relevance to that. If you're thinking, oh, he's the only right back that team's got, yeah, well, they might be looking to buy another one. Me and Clayton haven't pre-agreed in terms of what we think each club needs. I expect there probably will be a lot of agreement, but we're going to try and do this in position order from back to front, and looking at teams that we think should prioritize a goalkeeper. I've listed three, Clates, that I think should be prioritizing the goalkeeper.
I initially had one, but after watching the Leicester keeper's distribution last night, I'd like to change my position of Leicester to a keeper. So I've now got two. I'm going to guess one of yours. I'm very confident I know one of yours. Southampton.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you've
Yeah.
been very vocal about that. And well, as seen for the goal on Saturday. But yeah, Southampton and Leicester are mine. What's your other two?
Not Leicester, but I think that's probably worth covering just in case I forget to cover Hermanson yesterday. Obviously looking at a few tweets online on the way home last night, I've seen a lot of praise for Hermanson, and I understand. I mean, some very good saves in the game. It reminded me a little bit of more like kind of a Thomas Kaminsky from last year. That actually there might be a potential FPL asset there because probably is going to have to make a lot of saves. But like you, I thought that the distribution wasn't great actually. And I know last year under Maresca, he stepped into almost like centre back position quite a lot. We didn't see anything like that last night in terms of Leicester's build up. That's understandable. It's a completely different coach. But yeah, like you, I thought his distribution was quite ropey, actually. I
Yeah.
wasn't that impressed with it. And I thought that was going to be a strength. The strength clearly though was in goalkeeping. And I know it's one position that Aaron's really happy with, Aaron Lago, our Leicester correspondent. And I can see why. Because he's a decent goalkeeper. And if they're not going to play in the same way that they played last year, well, actually he looked like a strength for them anyway. I don't think it's irrelevant, Clates.
No, and when
So
when
I
I
think
talk about
goalkeeper's fine.
yeah, when I talk about distribution, I feel like the default is a lot of people assume it's like short passing. It wasn't even that. It was more every time he would like lump it up top, it was nowhere near. I think there was one time like Vardy had a actual 50-50 where he could go in the air. The rest, it just seemed to go wayward. And I think a team like Leicester, where 80% of the season they'll probably be up against it, I think, based on what I saw in the first half anyway. Like having accuracy from long balls from your keeper, I think is priority number one more than well, no, not more than the actual shot stopping, of course. But yeah, I saw some concerns from that last
This was a
night,
way of
but
saying that he may have more time in other games
true.
as well. So no, I wouldn't say that was a priority for Leicester because I think he's decent in goal. Obviously, the caveat to that is should he get injured, what's behind it is probably not very clever. But I think that applies to a number of teams. I just think just generally on goalkeepers anyway, there's a case to say goalkeeper for nearly every team. We could just do that because I've spoken in the past um, in terms of importance to kind of lead into the key player discussion. If we'd have done that, was like Vicario is not Tottenham's key player, but if they lose him, it's a massive, massive problem because of what would end up going in goal instead. And that applies to a lot of clubs. We have to look at the Nick Pope example from last year. Dubravka didn't do particularly badly, but it's just a big downgrade in terms
Yeah.
of what your number one keeper is. But I don't think that's the priority for Leicester. I think that if he stays fit for the season, I think that's a decent goalkeeper, actually. Southampton, for me, is clear as
Yeah.
huge problem. They obviously did quite well at the weekend, despite the result. I think impressed people and probably did way better than what people's expectations were. That's clear. They need a goalkeeper. There were two others. One is we think is going to get done is Bournemouth. I've put with
Who?
Mamadashvili.
Okay, I'd missed that.
Has anything happened with that in the last 24 hours? I'm well out of the loop.
No, that's what like when you say you're confident that's going to get done. I haven't actually seen anything, but I don't know if my timeline is curated. Well, I don't really have too much Bournemouth
Well,
news
I
on my.
think the idea was that Liverpool were going to buy him and he was going to go to Bournemouth on loan. That seems to be what was getting said. I don't know if that's gone
I've
quiet or
not
not.
seen.
But what I do know, obviously, from speaking to Neil Grover on Correspondent Week, our Bournemouth correspondent, and talking about what they needed then. And at that point, we obviously was a little unsure what was happening with Solanke, but working on the basis that he went, there were three key positions that Neil identified: centre forward, which obviously they've brought in
Yep.
Evan Nielsen; right back, they brought in Araujo from Barcelona, and the third one was goalkeeper. So for me, for Bournemouth, the priority is goalkeeper. I think you look at Neto on Yates's shot at the weekend, he should probably deal with it a little bit better. Maybe gets caught by surprise, but I think an upgrade of goalkeeper would be great for Bournemouth. The third one I've put is Chelsea, purely because they've obviously got a lot of goalkeepers. I think you see the problem at the weekend with how they
Yeah.
now want to play to go from Hermanson, what he did, and Maresca. Now, what they ask is obviously with Robert Sanchez. He should save Kovacic's shot at the weekend as well.
Agree,
He's not top level. What Chelsea keep doing is buying good goalkeepers.
but not
Chelsea
exceptional.
Chelsea needed an exceptional goalkeeper, right? Um, and now having bought Jorgensen, I guess, to compete with Sanchez, and he may come in the team, and who knows, he may prove to be very, very good. But just feel like it's Gary Mantle said this is like they keep buying number two goalkeepers.
Yeah.
Like buy a proper number one. Go and find your Courtois or whatever it is, who's clearly going to come in and be the number one. And I still feel like that's a priority. Plus, they buy in so many positions. I don't really know where to put as an outfield position.
So this was the
But
thing when I was doing this with my exercise, I was thinking, okay, what is the objective for Chelsea? And I didn't actually ask any Chelsea fans, but I'm assuming they want to be like solidified top four this season. Is that a
isn't
realistic expectation? Like,
no, I
well,
don't
with
think so.
yeah,
I think it a little bit like we kind of with Tottenham last year. If Chelsea finish the season and they're like fifth or sixth and they can see where it's going and positivity, I'd say accept it, but it probably will.
yeah, which is
But then that's
bonkers
how they felt with
considering.
Pochettino at the end of last season, right? And
Yeah. I mean, that having that as the expectation is bonkers considering the outlay financially. But anyway, going back to it, when I was thinking about them as like, okay, top four's perhaps the objective. I thought about the goalkeeper thing as well because I don't think Sanchez is. You hit the nail on the head. They've got number two goalkeepers, not a number one. But I was just looking at Nicholas Jackson up top, and I just thought they're obviously linked with Osimhen. If they had like a proper number nine, because they've got a lot of attacking talent in that kind of three behind the striker in midfield. I think that could be the thing that solidifies them more than a goalkeeper for me. So even though we're doing this back to front goalkeeper upwards, I just thought while we're on the topic of Chelsea, I landed on a striker for them actually.
I think with Jackson, um, he's not the long term solution, but it's fine. He's going into his second season, may improve. And Kunku can obviously play that position. You can put people like Palmer in that position. João Felix, I guess, is going now. Could also
Yeah,
play the
looks like it.
position. So like, like how many more players, man?
I think it's similar to the conversation around the goalkeeper. I don't look at any of them. And Nkunku, I think, is a fantastic player, but not like an out and out number nine. And I do look at if where we speak about they've got like number two goalkeepers, I almost look at their number nine options as like number two number nines. So if they can go and get like a top class nine like an Osman, which is probably unlikely now if Felix is coming in, then I think that would be the one for me with them.
Okay. Well, let's
Yeah,
let's agree on it this way, one way or the other. Then let's do it this way. What do you think would be worth more points to Chelsea? A really good number one, or like an Osman?
an Osman in my opinion.
I disagree.
Yeah. So, well, it's your show. We'll go with we'll
It's
go.
not, it's not. It's our show, mate.
we'll,
It's our show.
no, but we'll go with yours.
I also think it is worth saying that they are more likely to buy a centre forward than a
Yeah,
goalkeeper.
true.
They've got Jorgensen
Yeah,
in.
they're not really
I'm
linked
guessing
with anyone
Jorgensen's
else,
going to
are
play on
they?
Thursday in this Conference League game.
Possibly. And then what happens if he does well in there?
Well, this is what Gary warned about. If you wanted to go Sanchez in fantasy, was there's a good chance that he might start 5 6 games, but as soon as he throws one in,
Yeah.
he might come out the team. And if you're already that, if Jorgensen does well on Thursday, what's to say he doesn't play on Sunday, and then Sanchez plays next Thursday in the conference? What's to say that he won't even do something like maybe like what De Zerbi did last year with Steele and Verbruggen?
Yeah, possibly.
I wouldn't have thought so, but maybe. I think I'm going to go with centre forward for you
Cool.
purely because I think that's more likely in terms of what they're going to do business wise. But I don't know if that's now off with this Felix still.
Yeah, possibly. It's hard to know with that football club at the minute.
True that. Did you list anyone in need of a right back
Ah,
specifically?
I listed a few. I have got
Oh
one,
wow.
two, three. Oh, just three. I exaggerated. I've got three
Okay, well,
clubs.
I only listed one club that I thought was a priority for the right back position.
Oh, okay, go on. What's your club that you've
I
listed?
went with Brighton.
Interesting. Okay.
I
And now that
think
you've said it out loud, I'm thinking, why did I not have Brighton? That makes sense.
um, what you're getting from Brighton at the moment, despite them doing obviously really well at the weekend, I don't think having Veltman and Hinshelwood as fullbacks is really what he wants to do with it at the moment, Fabian Hertzler. And I think what he really wants to do is have a right back that can rampage so you can get the right sided forward into
Like what Lamptey could have been.
exactly that. A fit Tarek Lamptey, the one that burst on the scene during the COVID season, and everyone went, "What is this little pocket rocket?" Exactly that would actually have been ideal. You're not going to get back to that, and also you can't rely on it in terms of his specific as his skill set. He's obviously a very different player to Joel Veltman, who's a good right back, obviously very experienced, and they can use Hinshelwood, obviously in that position, who played left back at the weekend as well, and probably others, even Adam Webster at a push, and James Milner, another. So there's loads of players that they could play there, but I don't think any of them is the ideal solution of what Hertzler would like in his fullbacks.
Sure.
Now look at the left side, and I think once you get the balance right properly, then Barco is Stupinan, probably ideal for the sort of role on the other side. So I feel for them, a right back would be really good. I know they have been looking at right backs as well.
Interesting. I that's a very sensible shout. I didn't really think of that. I went Aston Villa, Brentford, and Everton for the teams that I think could do with a right back. And Brentford is one where it's funny, like I obviously tweeted out last night just to get some opinions from people. We had some replies on Slack, and there were two Brentford fans. One of them was our correspondent, Tom. He
There's
said
two Brentford fans. No, I
two
know,
Bre
actually I know two myself.
two Brentford fans replied, I should say. One of them was Tom saying a fullback, and they didn't specify what side, but I found that interesting. That was immediately the position I looked at and thought they could potentially strengthen, and that's what they said. Aston Villa is one. Like I look at their team, and I think they are so well balanced, and their recruitment has been very good for a prolonged period of time now. But I still look at that lineup and I think, okay, what's the one area I think that could be upgraded? I'm sure there would be an argument for like the midfield dynamics of McGinn, where he plays on the left sometimes. But I just look at Matty Cash and I can't help but think they could do better than that.
I don't argue that. I also think Emery would like something a little bit more defensive in that position so that he can really have probably say get the best out of say Ian Matson eventually to go and play at left back and get him rampaging because I think Villa at their best have that real lean where one really pushes on, the wide player in front comes inside, and then they form obviously their back three with the right back playing right sided centre back. And you don't want Matty Cash playing right sided centre back.
No.
So I think Villa is a good shout. Brentford, I think it's almost any of the defensive positions. I think for me, with them with right back, they have cover there in the sense that Roslev is playing now. Ajer, who's played left back at the weekend, can comfortably play there as well. They're not ideal solutions. Whereas covering at left back feels more awkward, like Christopher Ajer is doing it at the moment.
Yeah.
And I also think with Brentford, possibly an upgrade as a right sided centre back. I think Ben Mee's going to get used less this season. Nathan Collins doesn't really do it for me. I think Ethan Pinnock at left sided centre back is fine. Um, so I think right back, right sided centre back, or left back for Brentford could be any of them. Of the three, I'd say right back the least, just
Sure.
because they've got the more variety of players that can play that position.
Yeah, and that's why like someone like Aaron Hickey, he's obviously come in last season really highly rated, but just been quite unlucky with injuries. And he can cover both of the fullback areas as well, right? But hasn't really had a sustained chance to do that. Everton, what do you think of their options? Because I still look at it, it's like we're in 2024 and Ashley Young starting at right back. What's that about?
Yeah, again, there's a lot of players that they can use there. I wonder if actually as the season progresses, you might even see James Garner play that position. I know that won't go down well with Everton fans, but if Irogbenham and Gay strike a decent partnership, um, then it might be that James Garner gets used in that position as the solver
Yeah.
is a possibility. We've got Coleman, they've got Patterson, they've got Young. I think Everton's priority might lie up front though.
Okay, we'll talk about it. The irony is
I
I've
think
listened.
there's a possibility Dominic Calvert-Lewin goes in the next week.
Oh, really? Is there talk about that?
There was a contract problem,
Oh,
and
okay.
with Everton's finances,
Interesting.
there might be something that happens. Obviously, under that circumstance, Everton would go and replace. So I was thinking centre forward for Everton actually,
Interesting. We
and I
did have
think
a
in any case, if Calvert-Lewin's not fit, you've seen historically the problems for them.
yeah, one of our patrons actually replied saying right back or a striker. So yeah, that's interesting. The irony is I listed three clubs there for a right back, but I want to go with your one of Brighton, which I didn't list.
I quite like the Villa shot actually, though. Thinking about it, Villa, I was thinking a 10, like an attacking midfielder,
Okay.
just purely because I think where they're at their level now, of obviously playing Champions League football, I look at them and think, what's the upgrade? Now, again, there's loads of players that can play the position. Rogers obviously played there at the weekend, did well. Jacob Ramsey could play there. You can push Tielemans into there. You can push McGinn into there. But I think for a Champions League quality team, you are now looking at something in that position. Can it properly provide for Watkins?
Yeah. Like a proper playmaking, technical. Yeah.
Yeah. But I quite like your right back shout for Villa. I think that's good, actually. I'm tempted to go with
Thank
that.
you.
I'm tempted to go with that.
All right. We'll take it.
I think Brighton, that's right.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, right-sided centre back. This is where I put Brentford as an upgrade on Collins, but I'm happy to be led into left back on that with Brentford, just as something to complement Rico Henry while he recovers, not to replace Rico Henry because he's great, but something to complement that side of the pitch. Ideally, as covered previously on Brentford, to kind of want someone like a Tomiyasu who can go in and cover on either side. There's another clear one for me though on right-sided centre back.
Go on, who is
Um,
it?
Fulham.
Ah, yes. Yeah, that's a good shout. With I'm take it that's the Adarabioyo replacement.
Yeah, so I think Diop did fine Saturday night. No, not Saturday night, Friday
Friday
night
night.
against Manchester United. I watched him and Bassi at the back quite closely because of things Lewis James had said on correspondent week. Defensively, it did pretty well. Distribution, I think, is still quite alarming. I think the go-to think here with Fulham is you need to replace Paulinho. This is a lot of what we discussed with Lewis and correspondent week. But I think he really felt that Sasa Lukic was really worth a try to see how it would work there. And I don't think he particularly got overrun on
No?
Friday night. I think Pereira dropped in and helped out quite a bit. We've also got Harrison Reed can play the position as well. that right-sided centre back, I don't really know what the cover is there as it stands. So they've been linked with people like Trevor Chalobah from Chelsea and Diego Carlos of Villa.
They're two nice profiles for them.
I can see one of those two signings happening. So I think that that's probably where Fulham will end up going and prioritising from a position perspective.
Sure. Who were the other teams that you mentioned? Sorry.
I put right side centre back for Brentford.
Brentford, that was it. Yeah. So I didn't have a specific right-sided centre back. I have got a left-sided centre back that we'll talk about in a second, but I did have a central centre back for Brighton. So I know you went right back, and I agree with you. But it was more think I've got this seed that's been planted in my head early in the summer by you talking about them tactically and how the central centre back will sometimes step into midfield. And I I didn't actually watch the game against Everton, so I don't know if it was Van Heck that did do that.
It
Um,
didn't. They played like the back four, as far as I'm aware. I'm not seeing a lot of
oh,
it. So
well, never mind, moving it on.
at the moment, it's not fit. That's what I said. Until I think he really sorts out like your right back issue and
Yeah.
someone who can play that position how he wants, and it might be off the table at the minute.
Okay. Yeah, never mind. Uh, what do you want to go with for your right-sided centre back then? Both or just Fulham?
Definitely Fulham, I think. And then it's a case of do we think Brentford want a right-sided centre back or a left back as a priority?
I'll be led by you on that one.
I'm happy to flip the coin on that. Rico Henry's brilliant. I really, really like him. I genuinely think if he'd not had that injury last year, there's every chance he would have gone to the Euros,
I think he would have. Yeah, especially with how
especially
we
with the
landed.
problems we was well documented and stuff. I think he was really pushing to a point where I was getting annoyed that he wasn't getting a look in. I think it was about to arrive in the next squad before he suffered that injury at Newcastle. I think he's really good. You see Thomas Frank's comment about him last week?
I didn't actually know.
He's close. You may even see him before the international break. Actually, probably not this weekend. Game week 3 is not impossible. Maybe from the bench. He said he was setting up the team to play against Palace in the system that they wanted, and obviously had players playing against it. And he's like Rico Henry just ran straight through them all. It's basically made my tactics look like shit.
Ah,
So he was
that's a
complimenting
nice
him.
message for him. Yeah.
Yeah, he's sending, he's there. He's close now. If Rico Henry's fit, he plays every game.
Yeah.
Therefore, I think the strength for Brentford would be right-sided centre back. Actually,
Yeah, that makes sense.
okay. Left-sided centre back. Who did you want then?
So the only one that I've actually popped in there was Wolves. Um, yeah, I think a partner for Mascara would be pretty good for them, and a Max Kilman natural replacement, I think.
We are in 100% agreement on this one, mate. Yeah, I think
Nice.
I'm pretty sure Bradley Parker's going to say that on Clash of Correspondence on Thursday when he joins us as well. So yeah, left-sided centre back is becoming a priority, as I said on the podcast yesterday. I think Mascara actually is the first choice centre back now. It looks obviously Dawson wasn't used at your place,
Yep.
which perhaps surprising even from an experience perspective in a fixture like that. Um, Something that's like Max Kilman, ironically, but probably quicker. Um, and perhaps with a bit more experience if it's the sort of thing Wolves are looking at. But one of the things I think Bradley's going to discuss tomorrow on Thursday is despite the sales of obviously Neto now as well on top of Kilman, I reckon there's only about 20 million to spend.
Wow. Okay. So they'll have to be smart with who they're getting. Is
Well,
that?
you're going into the championship or something, I should
Yeah.
imagine.
Are they actually
Someone
linked
like
with a
Jacob
centre back?
Greaves, like what Ipswich looked at, something like that.
Sure. Because yeah, when I put the post out, we did get two Wolves fans replying saying about a left-sided centre back, but I don't know if there's anything in terms of out there in BBC Sport transfer rumours and stuff. Are they actually linked with anyone?
I don't think Wolves are getting linked with too many familiar names that you and I would be
No.
familiar with. It's often not. It's a lot of stuff was, I think, since they got promoted, it's been done through agents and stuff, hasn't it? So they're often looking at players that you and I have never heard of.
Yeah.
So it probably is a left-sided centre back from the outside. Whether they get it in or not, I don't know. And I think if you end up if Toti Gomez got injured and Dawson plays him instead, it becomes quite uncomfortable in terms of
Yeah.
playing out from that side of the pitch. I don't know if Mosquera could shift across the left-sided centre back. So yeah, that feels like a priority position. I think like when Wolves have got everyone available, we've got half decent team.
They were impressive in periods against Arsenal on Saturday, I thought. Yeah, I think
Yeah, and
they'll
you've
do
got the
well
likes
this
of
season.
Cunha to come back into that as well. I feel like Rodrigo Gomez is the natural replacement for Neto, so that's like fine. Um, Larson's obviously coming up front. So in a roundabouts way, they're almost one attacker up
Yeah.
on last season. So I think, but they're down. They're not down defensively because Mosquera essentially is now in for Kilman, but that natural balance of a left footer is a problem. So I think, yeah, left-sided centre back is Wolves, quite clear on that.
Did you have any other teams for one?
No,
Nope,
just
just them.
Wolves was the one. Um, I could list my club as well in terms of like a backup for Mickey as a left footed centre back, but that's not our priority. We'll get there. Left back,
I didn't have any for a out and out left back. So who have you got?
I put one, and it's a bit shady because it's a little bit dependent on maybe keeping their players in the next week or so. Um, but I think if Mark Gay goes, I'm looking at a player called Lacroix. Rory mentioned him a correspondent week a couple of weeks ago. Um, and they've got the other new lad whose name is Riyad, who is, I think it's Riyad, the name escapes me, who's also coming as a centre back as well. So I think they know what they want. They're either comfortable with what they got or they'll go and get Lacroix. That's been linked all summer with them. I looked at Palace as well, and I'm now of the opinion that Eze probably stays, considering this supposed release clause
Yep.
has run out on Friday night. If someone was going for them, I don't know why they haven't just activated it because Palace aren't going to sell him for less,
No.
particularly with all this gay talk going on and having lost Elise as well. And he doesn't seem desperate to move, so I think he stays. So I was looking at Palace and I was thinking, I kind of went back to like, if you took a player out, what suddenly becomes a real problem for them? And I did think if something happened to Tyreek Mitchell, what are you playing out there now
So
under
this
this new
was more
system?
of a cover focused transfer rather than you think Mitchell can be upgraded
A
upon.
little bit. So look at Palace as well. Like, obviously Adam Morton's developed centrally. Will Hughes played. Jefferson Lerma came on, and they've got Cheikh Doucouré is obviously come back from a long-term injury as well. So actually, they've got four in central midfield. Centre back, they either know what they're doing or are comfortable. I think on the right hand side, Rory mentioned the idea of even using someone like Ismail Assar as right wing back if Munoz got injured. Up front, you got Mateta and Edouard. Edouard's fine as a backup. And then you've got Eze, Kamada. Sar can also fill one of them attacking spots as well. So I thought, like, what's the real problem here?
I really struggled with Palace as well for what it's
Yeah.
worth. Mine was a cop out. I went for a striker, but I think Mateta and Eduardo are two good options. It was more like I've seen them linked with an Nketiah. So I was like, oh, are they looking for a striker? Like I really struggled with Palace. We did get a reply from Crystal Palace fan FPL Wilson, said a right attacking midfielder. And I know you said on the main pod Kamada was a bit quiet. On
Yeah, Rory had alluded to that after correspondent week. He told our patrons, he said, look, with Eze back in the team, just didn't quite take the initiative in the same way. Like it all seemed to go through Eze. And that's how it felt on Sunday. And I don't think he was bad.
no.
Just it felt like maybe he was taking more initiative before Eze returned to the team. I
Do,
get that.
do you think there's an element of maybe like we both I think are so high on Adam Wharton as a prospect? Do you think there's something where if they partner him with someone close to his level. I know you mentioned some of the other options there, but someone on the same wavelength as him, they could almost go up a gear as a team if they've got that central hub top quality.
Well, I think Decore will be that player.
Do
I mean,
you?
this is a player who was getting heavily linked to a move to Liverpool last summer.
Yeah, true.
So he's obviously had a really bad injury. He's back in the squad now, but needs a kind of game rhythm. I think he'll get back in the team, and I think that's strong.
Yeah.
And then you've got Lerma and Hughes to cover for that as well.
Yeah. So,
Um, I guess the Palace solution at the moment for Tyreek Mitchell would probably be Jeffrey Schlupp, I suppose.
yeah, and I think the argument you put across makes sense. That's probably the one. Like it's a very yeah. You look at the 11, and it's hard to upgrade it.
It's
So we're going
interesting
for a
that, isn't it?
cover left back, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's something underlying in that in terms of your feeling of about a team, and they haven't massively invested this summer, but I think we're quite happy the direction they're going in, even if they did lose Gay here. I'm going to throw left back in now,
Yeah. I like that. I think that's sensible.
because I think a Mitchell injury would massively unbalance them. Centre midfield, holding midfield, an out and out DM slash six. That's what the cool kids would call it these days, I suppose. I think you and I are going to be in 100% agreement here.
Yeah. How many teams have you put for this?
So,
Ah, just two. Okay. I've got three.
okay, we're not in 100% agreement then.
I know the two we
I
are in.
suspect we're going to be in 67% agreement though.
Yeah, I agree. Tottenham and Liverpool,
Yeah.
and then I've added Man United in there.
Yeah, I agree with that actually.
Okay.
Yeah. Just as you said it, I don't know why I've not put that.
Go on. Let's talk through your team first, Tottenham.
Do we have to? Can we do that tomorrow?
I don't mean about
Just
Leicester. I
think,
just mean
no, where the listen, there was a lot of good last night. Obviously got worse as it went on, as we'll talk about tomorrow. To get to where we want to get to, this is the game changing position massively. You know, these Rodris don't like fall off trees. There's not many. Liverpool, I've obviously tried to target it in Zubimendi is obviously not happening. Um, but I think if you're looking at the two teams, I think that's next level stuff, particularly for Tottenham. And I think for Liverpool in some of the bigger games, they're going to suffer. I wasn't as high on Gravenberch's performance as some of the Liverpool fans I saw were. He definitely got better as the game went on, but I'd be a bit concerned in that position that when they play the better teams, they'll revert to going, maybe we should put Endo in here.
yeah,
And Endo was quite important and did a good job for them last year, but I don't think Liverpool fans would honestly go, yeah, Endo's going to be our title winning six. He's probably not. I don't think Gravenberch is either. And that's where Liverpool want to get to. And that feels like the one you go, yeah. Like, even if you look at some of the other positions, if Trent went, would you go Liverpool's priorities are right back?
I don't think so because of
No,
Connor
you probably
Bradley.
wouldn't. Exactly. If Salah went, then I think, yeah, right sided forward, for example. Yeah, I think six for Liverpool. I think six for my team. I have heard some positive rumours over the last week that we may now be targeting one. We don't know the status of Rodrigo Bentancur after that nasty
Of course.
collision
Yeah.
last night, but we know that he's stable and he's talking, and that's the most important thing. But you obviously keep your fingers crossed. It's not like a Raul Jimenez. That's what everyone fears, that
Yeah.
sort of situation. You hope it's just a bad blow and he's back in 2 or 3 weeks or so. Um, but obviously Basuma and Ange might have fallen out now.
Yep.
Bissouma, it feels like every time is one step forward, it feels like I'm just taking one step back. You say sometimes you have to take one step backwards to go two forwards. With Bissouma, I just go one step forwards, one step back, one step
Yeah.
forwards, one step back. That's all I feel of him. I get good 4 or 5 games out of him, something goes wrong. That's how it feels. So that's beginning to become unreliable. Rod, as in Bentancur, has obviously come back from really bad injury. Good player. Is it going to be the next level stuff for a six? I still see Rod really as an eight at
I
his
do as
best,
well.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think a six for Tottenham is really important. And it may be that Archie Gray becomes that in the longer term, by the way. Um, we've solved the centre forward problem. I think we massively need a backup goalkeeper, but I think that would go for a lot of clubs as well. We need a backup left back.
Who?
I don't think Udoki should have played 90 minutes last night, and he did well to get through it. I think it was bad. I think that was bad management from Ange to leave him on that long.
Sure.
He's only played 45 minutes in 4 or 5 months.
Oh, wow. Good effort from him.
Um, yeah, it was to get through it, but he really struggled in the last 20 minutes or so, and I think he should have been taken off. Um, so a backup left back would be handy because whatever goes there is just nowhere near the level. But the game changer for the team for both Tottenham and Liverpool would be a six.
Yeah.
And I think now you said Manchester United, yeah, I'm in complete agreement with that. I can't even give you a good reason why I haven't put Manchester United there.
Fair enough. It was interesting actually. These teams were the ones where we got the most replies from fans, and there were 6 people from Man United saying a DM. There were a couple shouts for a left back or a striker. 2 Tottenham fans said a DM, and 3 Liverpool fans also said that. There was one for a right winger. I don't know if that's like a Salah backup kind of thinking that didn't send the thought process behind it. Just said right wing, but
I can get that from United perspective because I think Rashford and Garnacho best
oh
positions
sorry,
both to the left.
the right wing was for Liverpool.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
Yeah,
Again, all of Liverpool's other attackers. We discussed this again with in fact, not just on correspondent. We've been discussing it down with for a long time. All the other forwards, Diaz, Jota, Gakpo, Nunes. If you had to play all of them wide, you go where
it's
they
all
better,
off the
left or right.
left.
It's left for all of
Yeah.
them. So I get that. But it's not like, Jota couldn't do a job out there for you or Gakpo as well and stuff. Um, And I wonder if you might even later in this season might even see someone like a Shabosh like end up out there on
Yep.
occasion if, say, Salah got injured or something like that. That wouldn't be ideal. Then you'd need something. So I get that. Um, I think United, though, just to cover that as well, is similar. Garnacho's best off the left. Rashford's best off the left. If you had to put Mount in a wide position, it's left. If you had to put Fernandez in a wide position, it's left. It's the same.
Yep.
It's interesting that.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, United an upgrade on Casemiro is going to be needed, even if it's not now. It certainly is going to be because even Friday night you saw vulnerabilities on turnovers again, massively. It's not going to go away.
Be
And Fulham
interesting though,
failed
because
to take advantage of it.
even though we've identified three teams that need a six, I think they all need a different profile of six. Like I think Man United probably do need a little bit more of a physical destroyer in there, perhaps, than I don't know, like a Tottenham. I think the way you guys play through the phases, like and punch it into the six, I think they need to be really press resistant, really technical, agile, be able to weave in and out. Like I'm not sure that's exactly what a Man United needs, even though they need a similar position covered.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I think of the three, Tottenham's need for the footballer, if you will, um, is probably highest.
Yeah.
Purely as well with Liverpool, Trent will go into those phases, McAllister drop in deep. There's other good little technicians. Tottenham, it feels more difficult in that area. With United, it feels more like we've got a problem on the other teams attacking us. We need to stop that. But I also think that's dependent on who plays. So with Martinez, the distribution from the back is so much better.
Yeah.
If Martinez doesn't play, they end up using Anana a lot as their distribution anchor, basically. So if you had a better footballer again in the sixth position who's comfortable receiving back to goal, turning, head up, then that isn't a requirement. So it's almost dependent in a weird way, a knock on from Martinez, I think.
Yeah. Makes sense. Well,
So
what we go
yeah,
next?
it's interesting that that's three of the greedy six, if you will. And we said DM shows just at that position in terms of outfield now. I feel like it's become the most important position. If you
I,
get it wrong, you're in trouble.
I mean, being biased because that's the position I play, but I think it's the most important position on the pitch.
You haven't now obviously never watched Andrea Pirlo in game week 39 a few years ago, mate. Central midfield, this one for the older listeners. Who you got there? Centre midfield. It's more of an eight.
Uh, who have I got there? I have got Arsenal. I have got Bournemouth. I have got Fulham, Ipswich, and Man City. Variety of teams there.
There's a lot going on there, Clay. Score on then.
So let me group them a little bit. Arsenal and Man City. Okay. Arsenal, I think I might be in the minority here. I feel like the Arsenal fans are divided between needing like a superstar attacker to join the group, be it a wide forward or a number nine or a left-sided eight. I am of the opinion. Okay, I spoke about in the Chelsea context objectives. Arsenal's objective is to win the league. Whether Arsenal do it or not is to be debated, but I think that's what the objective will be. In my opinion, Arsenal have the best probability of doing that if they fix the midfield dynamics. I'm not sure Party Jorginho with Rice is a sustainable solution over a 38 game week campaign. I think they can both come in stints and do well and partner Rice, but there's games where Rice is absolutely tailor-made for a six, and there's games where he's tailor-made for an eight. Wolves at home was not a game where Declan Rice was suited to playing as a left eight, in my opinion, and we're heavily linked with Mikel Merino, and I think that is a signing that just makes a lot of sense. It's not sexy, but I think it will be incredibly effective and perhaps get the best out of Declan Rice as well. And I just think in some of the tougher games, it will help us really, well, even more solidify where we were strong last season, but going forward, give us a bit more as well.
What's Mikel Marino?
So he's someone that he's a dual monster, as Mikel Arteta would love. He's very tall, very physical, but he's very technical on the ball as well. He's kind of got like that cultured left foot. It's a very lazy Spanish narrative in terms of the technical comfortability on the ball. Yeah, he's comfortable kind of what Granit Xhaka did 2 seasons ago was he rotated between the zones with Zinchenko. So one would either go out, one would come in, and they would constantly rotate. And I think Marino's got the ability to do that. I think his tactical intelligence is very strong, and that I think is something that fits really nicely in that left eight, where it allows Rice to play, in my opinion, his best position, which is more of the base. I think modern football has become obsessed with your six being this like Sergio Busquets. I think you can have a different type of six. They don't all need to be a Rodri. I think you can have different types. So Marino, what is he? He's a dual winning ball playing midfielder that I think slots in the left eight quite nicely.
Is that not your solution then? That's
Pardon?
happening, isn't it?
I don't know. Like it's gone a bit
Well, it
quiet.
feels like it's been happening for weeks.
Well, that's why I'm saying I'm not sure. Like I thought it would have happened 2 weeks ago.
Be honest, I was already working on the assumption that this deal was going to get done.
If that's the case, then I would like to change my answer to a wide forward.
Okay, let's come back to your team then.
Sure.
Who else did you have? CM.
Man City, they're just someone that I think they performed incredibly well on Sunday without Rodri, but I don't know. I look at when Bob got injured, it's interesting. Everyone went to they're gonna get Eze, they're gonna get Eze, and I just think a Bruno Guimaraes, in my opinion, makes that like one of the most complete midfields I think in the world. And I think that even though Kovacic did well, Lewis can positionally adapt where he goes on the pitch. I just look at that as like if they can get a hybrid 8-6 that can join in that team, that takes them to another level, which is ridiculous to think about considering the level they're already at.
Two things. Don't piss off the Geordies when I'm going up there in a couple of weeks.
Ha,
Okay. Bruno Guimaraes is now Newcastle captain.
he is.
So
But that is a transfer that's been rumored.
it is. I think people keep having an inkling that there might be a major sale from Newcastle. I don't think there will be personally. Um, with City, the only thing is you look at how they played on Sunday and said you don't need one. You just need another 10. I need something to go in there instead of Foden or De Bruyne.
Oh,
Obviously,
an
Bernardo
Alvarez
can play that
replacement.
role. I think in terms of a central midfielder, for me, Bernardo is outstanding. If that's if that's the role you need him to do, to link between Rodri and a 10, I think that's fine. And I think as he gets older, I know we often say, oh, in the big games, Pep reverts to playing him on the right. Well, that wasn't the case in the big game that just went. So you might see him in central areas more. Also, I don't know if you saw the links last night on the Bird Clates, but it was massive Gundogan rumours last night
I know, I didn't see that.
about going back to City.
Okay.
Now, that's a solver. Someone might be a cynic and say, well, it's okay for them to buy a 34-year-old player, maybe on a 1 year contract at this stage, because they'll only need a 1 year contract, right? What are you laughing for, Clates?
No, no comment.
I'm not going to City till November, so I'm not so bothered. I'll calm down nearer then. Um, I could buy into the idea of City as wanting a central midfielder, but if Bernardo played there, like how much upgrade does that need?
Yeah. So, well, you think
It's
more of like
class, isn't
a
it?
number 10 then? Is it?
I
Yeah.
think so.
One of the replies on Man City was an Alvarez replacement, someone that can
Yeah,
play
because
like
that's
that
the bit of the
10.
squad
What?
that's. I mean, there's a temptation for City is ridiculous. It sounds he's two put striker
Yeah.
because obviously if the big man gets injured up front and now you've lost Alvarez, what do you do up there?
Yeah.
And it probably would be, I think, just Foden and De Bruyne as tens. Probably at this moment with like Bernardo and Rodri behind that and just create a very high aggressive box with two wide players. And listen, it still sounds great. They'll cope. Like, don't worry about City. They'll be
Yeah.
fine. Um, but yeah, it feels more like at the just top end, I feel, for me. And I get your point on a central midfielder. Plus, as well, I mean, to talk about Haaland, it's the same, isn't it? And I know they did well at the weekend, but Rodri, what's your, is there a succession plan in place? Are they light in that area of the pitch? It's so difficult when you're as good as they are. It's so difficult to have fillers in for the top level players. Like, who's going to be? It's the same as the Harry Kane problem for Tottenham for years, right? Oh, I need another forward to cover him. Yeah, but this guy knows he's not going to play. It's like it's not easy.
Yeah.
At City, I'm sure you'll get plenty of minutes, but you're not going to start regularly if you're a backup to Rodri, right?
No. Yeah, fair point. The other two teams I had just to quickly talk about centre mids were Fulham and Ipswich. And Ipswich was just more. I was really impressed with what I saw from them, especially in the first half. And I know you spoke a lot about yesterday on the main poll going man to man, and they were quite front-footed. But I couldn't help that feeling that if they had someone that was quite technical in the middle of the park, they would maybe be able to win the ball back, but then actually keep it for a little bit longer than they managed to, rather
Like
than
Calvin Phillips.
yeah, yeah.
If you could get Calvin Phillips back,
Yeah, it's not a bad shout, to be fair. I think where I've not seen it for so long, I'm like
I get that.
not entirely sure. But and then Fulham was perhaps falling into the lazy narrative of the I'm not sure if
Paulinho.
post Polinia they can do it with just Andreas and Lukic, but yeah, they're the two other teams I had for centre mids.
Okay. I've got two more to throw into the bargain.
Ha, go for it.
But almost default ones. One is West Ham,
Okay.
purely because they've obviously added well offensively and defensively in this window. And I do think there's a flirtation with an idea of playing Paquetá deeper at the moment. I
Yep.
think that flirtation, which is we haven't seen it yet, but that flirtation comes around because West Ham don't have a player in central midfield who is good enough technically to progress the ball further forward to Paquetá. Because the new lad Guido Rodriguez profile is very similar to Edson Alvarez. I don't see them as a partnership. Maybe
Sure.
in some tougher away games, great, sit there as a double pivot and you sit there and protect, fine. But in terms of when West Ham need progression better through central midfield, I think that's an area of improvement for them, which is probably not going to happen in this window now with the business they've done. But I don't think Suchek's never going to be that answer as a player.
No,
And I don't think James Ward-Prowse has quite lived up to what West Ham fans would have hoped for in
no.
seriousness.
He's someone that I think is a great rotational squad option, but never going to be that kind of key cog starting 38 games to get them where they want to be.
So I think next, and I don't think it'll be this window, but I think the next one West Ham might target might be a central midfield player.
I really like that now that you said that. Yeah.
The other one I put in was Forest.
Okay.
I think what Forest have done, as Mark Southern said on Correspondent Week, is improved the squad quite a bit this year, not necessarily improved the team. And I think there's real high hopes that Sangare will improve this year in that area. Um, can play as a 6'8". Forest obviously commonly play with a two.
How bad was Danilo's?
Well, probably the rest of this year,
Oh, okay.
but not season ending is the reports at this stage. So he's not good, but it's not the worst case scenario. So maybe even Christmas, not impossible. That's a big chunk of the player that Nuno chose to start with Sangare at the weekend. So that feels like a position that wants to be filled. I look at Yates playing that position and he's fine. Forest fans largely probably will like him because of his nature and stuff. I don't think he's a great footballer. I think for the level you want to be in this league, I
I
think
agree.
that's a position for improvement for Nottingham Forest. Um, so I think West Ham Forest. On the others, you said Ipswich have got a different position. I'd like to shout out.
Go
Fulham,
for it.
we sort of said right-sided centre back. Who was the other team you say centre midfield? City.
City, yeah.
City, centre midfield or attacking midfield?
I think attacking mid now, reflecting on that post Alvarez
Okay.
comments.
You got anything to come back on West Ham Forest?
No, really like them.
Okay. We'll have them as centre midfielders as well then. Um, Ipswich, while we're covering them then. I think right wing. Wes Burns played the position at the weekend, who played it commonly for Ipswich last year, may have picked up a muscle injury. Many of you have seen him come off during the game. But he quite often will play quite a defensive role, maybe going towards the right back position off the ball, so Ipswich can set on occasions in a back five rather than a back four. But I think on it, you want to level up now. I think I think they've solved some of the attacking areas of what they wanted to do. I think there's awareness that Nathan Broadhead is injured at the moment, will come back and potentially go on the other side. So I think right-sided midfield for Ipswich for
See,
me
that's
over central midfield because we know that they're bringing Phillips into that.
yeah, no, that makes sense. That was an oversight for me. I'm just thinking Reece Nelson to Ipswich. Could we sort something there? That's something that could be mutually beneficial, I reckon.
I quite like that as a suggested purchase. Don't mind that at all. Actually, yeah, it's
Yeah.
the sort of deal I could see happening. Whether he wants to take a chance there, but then I don't know. I know Phillips' stock has really kind of lowered, but it's a bit of a coup for Ipswich to take him there if they can rediscover the player that was at Leeds, right?
Big
Or
time,
even
yeah.
just the England player.
Yeah.
So I like right midfield for Ipswich, and I think also for Newcastle.
Yes, this one I think was one of the biggest no-brainers for me. I like Jacob Murphy, but I don't think again for I think Newcastle since they've kind of come into their money have recruited so smartly. They've not gone and spent stupid amounts. They've been quite strategic with how they've done it. But this is the area where I look at and I think with how they're linked with like a Gay, where they went and got a Bruno when they did, it's all like really strategic signings. And I look at that right wing area. I think if they can be smart with what they get there, that can almost take the attack up another level with Isaac Gordon and a potential right winger of their level. I think that's a no-brainer for Newcastle.
Yeah, it's not slighting Jacob Murphy. I just think it's been clear for a really long time that Newcastle would like to get a right-sided forward in. So I think that was fairly straightforward. I think based on what we discussed earlier, we're saying left winger for Arsenal.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's the area I look at games last season like Man City away, Liverpool away, Villa away, Newcastle away, in the Champions League second half Bayern Munich away. Just think for Arsenal to go on and challenge for the Champions League, we're missing that kind of individual firepower, sorry, that can kind of create something out of nothing.
It's tough though, isn't it? It's in the sense that well, it's certainly best position for Martinelli. Would you say it's best position for Trossard as well?
I actually think Trossard's best suited as like a false nine more than on the
Okay.
left.
Doesn't look like
But
it's going to get used there though.
no, exactly. But yeah, I don't know. Like Martinelli, it's a big season for him. He's got a lot to learn. I think the Arsenal team has developed to a level quicker than we thought we'd get to where we are. And where Martinelli had some injuries, I think his confidence is quite low. There's a danger that we could be outgrowing him, I think. So it's a big season for him. But I think I look at the Arsenal attack as a group and like the profiles that we have of a Havertz, Jesus, Saka, Martinelli, Trossard, they all give different things. The one thing I think we're consistent in lacking in that area is someone that can in those teams and matches I mentioned, drag you up the thirds. Like when you're up against it, just run through, create transitions, create a yard to score for yourself. And I think that's the thing that we're lacking in that attacking group. So yeah.
How did he play on Saturday? Because he played the 90, didn't he?
Who, Martinelli?
Yeah.
It was an okay performance. I'd say like 6, 7 out of 10. I think for me, the consistent thing with him is he needs to improve his decision making in the final third. I think sometimes he dribbles with his head down and he misses an option that's available. Um, I think it was an okay performance, but it was the first week of the season, and yeah.
I thought he'd tear Doherty apart, mate.
Did you?
Yeah, I've seen enough of Doherty, mate.
Oh, you thought he would. I thought you're saying
Yeah.
you thought he did tear him apart.
No, I thought he would.
Yeah, I think no, I wouldn't say he did to be honest.
I've just add on to him, and I know he had some injury problems, particularly last year. When you, the not last season, but the season before, we started like an absolute train. He was unplayable there in moments and not quite got back to that. Is that fair?
Yeah, and I think that's a good point because there's big components there where like the left-hand side for Arsenal last season was different than the season before. So like with that fluid Zinchenko, Xhaka, Martinelli pod, I'd even add Jesus into that because he started a lot of
Goes
that.
across a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and he tends to drift into the left. That created space for Martinelli. Last season, we had very inconsistent selections at left back. We didn't really replace Xhaka. The first half of this season, we were toying with that Kai Havertz. When Havertz then moved up top, that's obviously a different profile for him to interchange with. So he has had different dynamics to work with. Whereas you look on the right, it's been consistent for 2 years, right? Of White, Odegaard, Saka. So I think there's a lot that can be improved, but I think he individually has things he can work on as well. But yeah, I definitely think adding a kind of top class wide forward is something that can take Arsenal to another level.
Okay. A Villa, we didn't really agree on.
I think, did you not say the right back?
Or did we agree with that? Did we right back Villa?
I
We
think
did.
so, but
You're
go on.
correct.
Yeah.
You are right. Sorry. So right back for Villa. This left us with two for the centre forward position. So I will nominate Everton and Leicester. Yes, I know Jamie Vardy scored against my team last night. I'm well aware I was there.
Did you
Um,
like his gesture to you in the crowd, James?
I mean, I didn't know it. To be honest, I didn't even see it till this morning. But actually, I think good on him. To be honest, I was obviously in the ground, and they started picking on him. Our fans
All right.
started having a go at him anyway for no particular reason, just because he is an easy one to target, isn't he? Especially
Yeah.
with the stuff that obviously happened with his misses and whatnot. So do you know what? The Tottenham fans gave it to him without him initiating anything. Do you know what? He scored. He shut us up.
Yeah.
Fine. I don't have a
Yeah.
problem with it. He's this the old. I did think. I know there's been a lot of praise for it, but I did think all that. He was telling Romero to f off was a lot braver as he was getting substituted rather than he was still on the
I
pitch.
I was just thinking, mate, there's going to be a lot of stoppage time here. You're celebrating a bit early, like.
Let me tell you right now that Romero will go through him when we play each other later in the
I don't
season if
doubt it.
Vardy's playing. Romero's like is like an elephant, mate. He will not forget, mate.
Yeah.
He'll be after him. Jamie Vardy, brilliant what he's doing at his age, and he's adjusting his game. He can't run the channels in the same way that he used to. Obviously, the pace is not the same. And actually, he arguably should have won the game for them. I haven't seen it back on the TV, but it looked like a massive chance, and he probably should have scored. He takes the header well, he can't really miss. If you create the chances for him to score,
Yeah.
clear. There would be a concern about what that creativity is more for Leicester. But Leicester know they're not going to be able to rely on that for 38 games. In fact, the team news last week suggested Vardy wouldn't be available till game week 3 at the earliest. So it was certainly a shock to see him in the team lineup. And then there was a 5-10 second moment where I realized what that was going to mean is that it would almost definitely score. They need cover for that. Daka is out for months. Tom Cannon was hardly used last year. He's probably not going to be used a lot this year. Mavididi didn't start yesterday. I think that's possibly a lot to do with Porro and Udogi and tracking, but he's not a centre forward. He's a wide player. You could use Decordova Reed, and that's it. None of this is ideal.
No.
So Leicester for me do need a centre forward. Aaron made that clear on correspondent week that something's got to go in there because although Vardy finished last season really well and he did well last night, you're not going to get 90 minutes, 38 games out of him. So even that, you're not going to get the 90 much anymore. So you need something to come on and continue the work that he is doing if he's still going to be a star. So definitely a centre forward for Leicester.
Yeah, and that's one on reflection. I'm thinking, how did I not come to the same conclusion?
Everton, I've put there because it's similar. It's the Calvert-Lewin reliability. And like I said earlier, I keep hearing rumours that he might go.
Yeah.
And if he goes, they've got to get something else, clearly, because like Ndai will obviously get phased towards the team, but he's not that. He's not a 9. Everton need a focal point in a Sean Dyche style of team. So I could see something weird happening where like the window comes around and Chris Wood's playing for Everton.
And then Nketiah is linked with Forest, so that domino chain could
And
make
Forest are
sense.
looking at Jimenez from Feyenoord as well.
Yeah, okay.
Do you get a
Yep,
chain of something where Calvert Lewin goes somewhere? That's the sort of profile. Sean Dyche has worked with Chris Wood before.
he has, yep.
Forest have got their new forward in. It's just, you kind of joining the dots here. It's not to those who've got Chris Wood in their FPL teams. It's not to like panic. But it's a 1% chance. But it's the sort of chain stuff that something like that will happen next week.
Yep.
It just does. It always does.
Always does, yeah.
So I think Everton centre forward. A, because I think Calvert Lewin will go possibly, and B, in any case, it's the reliability. We know it's a problem from
Yep.
Neil Maupay is apparently going to Marseille,
Is he?
which that is becoming certainly an intriguing collection of footballers that are creating there with an interesting manager as well. So that's
Mm.
probably going to implode, I should imagine.
Have you taken his poster down from your wall now then?
Deserby,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Wipe my arse of it on the way as well, actually. Right. I think that's it. So goalkeepers, Chelsea, Bournemouth, Southampton. Not Chelsea, sorry. Southampton, Bournemouth, right backs, Brighton, Villa, right-sided centre-back, Brentford, Fulham, left-sided centre-back, Wolves, left-back, Palace, DMs, Liverpool, Tottenham, Man United, central midfield, West Ham Forest, attack midfield, Man City, right wing, Ipswich, Newcastle, left wing, Arsenal, up front, Everton, Leicester. Have I missed anyone?
I don't think so.
Oh, centre forward, Chelsea, we agreed on as well.
We did, sorry. You did miss one. I bet you clocked it.
Good.
Nice.
Cheers, Clates. Thanks very much. Clayton and James show tomorrow. Can you give us any spoilers for that?
Yeah, we'll be talking about the Monday Night Football a little bit, and
Great.
now I'll be coming up with the agenda later today. Listeners, if you have any suggestions that you want to throw in, whack them in the comments, and we'll have a look at them. But what else is on Thursday and Friday?
Thursday, COTC, Wolves v Chelsea, Bradley Parker and Gary Mantle. I'll be streaming Friday. Ash James as well. Patreon content today. We're doing a quiz shortly on
We are.
weekend debutants in the Premier League.
Lovely stuff.
All right, thanks everyone. Enjoy yourselves. Well, I don't mean enjoy yourselves, but be nice to each other. I'd say play it your own way and cue music, please. Man, it's our worst ending to a podcast ever. Bye.